friends, and welcome to the Crochet Cakes YouTube channel. Now today we're going to be making a garment together. And what garment are we going to be making together? Well, that requires a tiny bit of a backstory. One of my most asked about patterns is the summer fan top, and it's been at least 4 years since I released that pattern, and it does need a little bit of an update. It could use a grading update as well as some instructional updates. But today I thought that we could crochet one together. Now, before we actually begin crocheting, let's talk a little bit about the construction of this summer fan top. The summer fan top is constructed in 2 panels. We have a front panel and a back panel. Both of these patterns are crocheted bottom up in a T-shaped construction. So what that means is that we start from the bottom of the garment, and then as we work our way up, we're gonna add stitches on the sides that will account for our sleeve section. So that's why we call it a T-shaped. Once we have these 2 panels crocheted, we are going to seam at the sides and then seam at the shoulder. So really, for this T-shaped construction, we only need 4 seams, 1 on either side and then our shoulder seam. And thus we will have constructed the body of our garment, the yoke, as well as the sleeves. I hope that made sense. But in terms of the specific summer fan top pattern, we're also going to be using some simple and some stitches that might seem a little complicated. So we're going to be using a combination of extended single crochet stitches as well as single crochet stitches for the body. The place where our stitching is going to change is going to be the yoke. We're going to be using what is called, at least in one of my stitch dictionaries, it's called the open fan stitch. This stitch is a 4-row repeat, and we're going to have our fan rows and then what I call a squaring off row, which is where we kind of like make everything flat so we can work another fan row. Now, there's a tutorial that I follow for this stitch, and I'm also going to be working it along with you a little bit later. Now, if you've been here for a little bit of time, you might be saying, Clarissa, are you actually going to be making the summer fan top pattern, or are you going to be doing something a little different? Well, you got me. You know me. I wouldn't be me if I also didn't change my own pattern. So I've already done 1 modification of this summer fan top, and I'll include a link for that for blog post in the description box below as well. But for today, we're going to be changing a couple of things. We have 3 modifications. So the first modification is yarn. Instead of using the cotton cashmere blend that I originally designed the pattern with, I am going to be using opal yarn. So this is going to be a wool nylon blend, and it is particularly stiff to crochet with. So I hope it actually turns out well because I love the color. It's in the opal Van Gogh range, and it is the sunflower painting. It's based on the sunflower painting. So that's our first change. Our second modification is more yarn. So not only am I changing to a wool nylon fingering weight blend, but for the yoke of the sweater and the sleeves, I thought we would try some alpaca yarn. This is Alpaca Blaze from Hoobbi, so it is actually 40% acrylic. Let me read this here. 40% acrylic, 30% alpaca, and 30% polyamide or nylon. So it is not, all that much wool, but enough wool content to make this not a summer fan top anymore. And the third change that we're going to have for this is actually going to be the sleeve length and stitch. So originally in the pattern, I just did like short little cap sleeves that droop off because of how many stitches you need for the open fan stitch. It's a multiples of 10 plus 6. So this time I'm actually thinking of using the open fan stitch completely for both the sleeves and the yoke section. That means we're going to have to play a little bit around with the length of our yoke, probably, we'll find this out together because I'm going to be crocheting it with you. Okay, so these so far are all the modifications we are going to do for this not so summer fan top. However, even though we're doing some modifications, we're also going to be keeping some things the same. The things that we're going to be keeping the same are our hook size. I am still going to be using a 3.5mm hook for the entirety of the garment. In this case, I'm going to be using the Furls Odyssey hook. Now, with these hooks, my gauge will be pretty similar to the original pattern gauge, but I will say that whenever I use a Furls crochet hook, the Odyssey specifically, I find that whenever I switch to another hook, like for example, Crochet Amour specifically, I need to go 0.25 up a hook size. So a little bit of an idea to play with if you want to match my gauge specifically for this pattern, which I will of course put at the end of the video when we work all our changes and everything like that. So we're keeping our hook size the same, and we're also keeping our T construction. So we're gonna work it bottom up in 2 panels, la da da, okay? Those are the things that we are keeping the same. Now, both panels start off the same way. We chain in multiples and we work our rows of extended single crochet stitches right side facing, and then single crochet stitches on the wrong side of the work. However, I guess this is also a change. I decided to start with foundation extended single crochet, and that we're going to work like this. We are going to start with a slip knot. I'm using a 5mm crochet hook here, and we're going to do a chain of 2. Into that first chain, we're going to insert our hook, we're going to yarn over, we're going to pull up a loop. Now we're going to yarn over, pull through one of the loops to do our chain, and now we're going to yarn over, pull through one of the loops for the base of the extended single crochet, yarn over, pull through 2 loops to complete the extended single crochet. Again, we're going to insert our hook into the bottom of the stitch, so the chain 1 portion. We're going to yarn over, pull up a loop. Now we're going to yarn over, pull through 1 loop to do our chain 1. Yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops to complete our extended single crochet. If you've ever worked with foundation stitches before, you're familiar with how this goes. The first yarn over that we do is to form the chain 1, and all subsequent yarn over pulling through loops that we do is to complete the designated stitch. In this case, we are working, as I said, with extended single crochet stitches. So this will be row 1 of our pattern. Determine the number of foundation extended single crochet that we're going to be doing, we're going to refer to what is written as row 1 in the pattern. So at the end of that row, if you're doing size 1, you should have 74 extended single crochet stitches. To work up the body of the summer fan top, we're going to be working a 2-row repeat. Row 1, right side row, is going to be a extended single crochet row, and then row 2, wrong side row, is going to be a single crochet row. So since this foundation extended single crochet marks row 1, our next row in the pattern should be a single crochet row. Okay, this is what our foundation stitches look like. Now we're going to proceed to do the next row, which is going to be a wrong side row. So we are going to chain 1 and turn. Okay, and now we are going to work a single crochet into each stitch, because remember we already established that the wrong side row is going to be a single crochet row, and literally we're just going to be working a single crochet in each stitch. Row 3 is going to be a right side facing row, so that means that we're going to be working extended single crochet stitches in each stitch. These are the 2 rows, as I said, that we will be repeating to form the body of our summer fan top. So again, when we are right side facing, we're going to work extended single crochet stitches, and when we are wrong side facing, we're going to work single crochet stitches. We're going to continue working extended single crochet rows on the right side of our work and single crochet rows on the wrong side of our work until we've completed a total of 48 rows, or however long you want your body to be. You can follow along with the rows designated in the summer fan top pattern, or you can determine your own based on the drape of your fabric and so on and so forth. Of course, here for this sample that I'm doing for you guys, I'm not going to be working the full 48 rows, but this is just to get an idea of the steps that we need to complete the summer fan top. Okay, now that we're all set on the instructions for the body of our garment, I'm going to continue working my fingering weight wool garment. While opal yarn does feel a little rough to crochet with, my swatch blocked out very beautifully. It softened up considerably, so I am actually very excited to see how this garment is going to come out. Now, I'm conscious that I only have 100 grams of this yarn, and perhaps I'm being very optimistic, but you know, I'm just gonna keep on with my delusions of grandeur and crocheting along this garment because look at these beautiful fall colors. Because of the 100 grams of yarn that I have, for both panels, I am only going to work up 38 rows for the body. So once we've done the number of rows that we need for our body, in my case, I said I worked 38, we're going to proceed with the next set of instructions. So row 49, work as row 3, which means we're on the right side. We're going to be working extended single crochet stitches. And then these last stitches or chains that are mentioned here are going to make up our sleeve stitches, okay? So that is the first half of our T construction. Then we're going to move on to the next row, which is going to be a wrong side row. Now here, we're going to start using our single crochet stitches, but then at the end of the row, we're going to work foundation single crochet to finish up sleeve number 2. Rows 51 to 53 are what I call a combination of your body rows. So we're going over the chest area, but we're also working the sleeves at the same time. Alright, so to determine the sleeve length that I want, I'm holding my top right under the armhole where it's going to end, and I am measuring from there down. Uh, Probably a lot better if you would do this in a mannequin, but my mannequin doesn't have arms. So I think I'm going to go for 3/4 length sleeves, about 12 inches. If the goal is 12 inches, the other thing that I need to keep in mind is that we need to have multiples of 10 plus 6. So that is the stitch count that we need. Whatever length of sleeve, we need to also consider that we have a body that we're going to be working the open fan stitch over. To figure out our total yoke count, we're going to add and do maths. So we have 80 stitches for the body. Our sleeve length is going to be 12 inches potentially. So that is 12 inches times our 1-inch gauge. That will equal, in my case, 60. So we have 60 plus 80 plus 60. This is 200 stitches, but we need multiples of 10 plus 6. So 206. All right, let's figure out if I'm going to have enough yarn for these 12-inch sleeves. And honestly, I don't think I will. So I think we're going to have to make much shorter sleeves. In the end, I decided to go for a 51 stitch count for the sleeves. So that means that right now I'm going to be chaining 52 chains. Once we complete our number of chains, we are going to be working into the back bumps of our chain. So we're going to turn the chain a little bit so that the back bumps are facing us. And in the second chain from the hook, we are going to begin working single crochet stitches. So we're going to work these single crochet stitches all along our row. And once we complete that row, I'm going to show you what we're going to do next. So if you're following along with the pattern right now, this is the start of row 50. Because it's a little bit hard to tell with very thin yarn, we're going to be working the next couple of rows together with my worsted weight yarn and the 5mm crochet hook. Now I'm going to, instead of working in the chain here, I'm going to turn it over and work into the back bumps of the chain. And for reference, I have 26 stitches in my sample, and I've just chained 11. So into the first back bump. Continue along this row working single crochet stitches in each chain and then single crochet stitches in each stitch, and I will meet you back here at the end of the row. Once we've completed all the stitches in the row, it is time to add the second sleeve. And we do that by working foundation single crochets. We work our first foundation single crochet in the base of the stitch we've just completed. That is one foundation single crochet. Now we continue along working foundation single crochets for the same number of single crochets that we did for the previous sleeve. So in my case, even though I chained 11, I worked 10 single crochets, so I am now going to work 10 foundation stitches. So once we've completed what is respectively row 49 and 50 of the pattern, we're going to have this, a weird rectangular shape in the middle with two little arms sticking out on either side like a little T-Rex. All right, now for the next row, we're going to chain one and we're going to turn. And we are going to work extended single crochets. So we're working one extended single crochet in each stitch. All right, the next row is going to be a single crochet row. So we're going to chain one and turn, and we're going to work a single crochet in each stitch. Once we've added our sleeve rows and we are sure that we have multiples of 10 plus 6, it's time to start the yoke section. Because at the very beginning we talked a little bit about modifying the sleeve length, I want to discuss that with you a little bit. If we're looking at the written pattern for the yoke section, we see that we have a set of instructions for the sleeve and then a set of instructions for the yoke. Now, we're going to be eliminating the set of instructions for the sleeves, and we're going to be working the sleeves and the yoke completely in the open fan stitch. So we're following the highlighted green section. Because this video was getting particularly girthy, I decided to do a separate tutorial for the open fan stitch. You can find that linked in the iCard above or in the description box below. So we are gonna fast forward, speed run through the open fan stitch, and I will see you on the other side. After completing the first 5 rows of the open fan stitch, this is what we're going to have, and we're simply going to keep repeating rows 2 to 5 to continue building the open fan stitch. This is how the open fan stitch is working up with our lace weight yarn. I am currently working row 5 of our open fan stitch, and I am going to keep working the open fan stitch until I've completed a total of 8 rows. And then after that, I am going to divide the front yoke section into like a sleeve portion, leaving a hole for my neckline. Before we continue on with the lace weight yarn, I actually want to block the opal and see how well it's going to drape and or grow because, well, I only have a tiny bit amount of it. And you might say, well, why don't you just purchase more yarn? My darlings, do you see the price of this one skein of yarn? Because that scared me and I'm not buying more of it. So while I berate past Clarissa for not buying 2 skeins of this yarn when it was affordable in Japan, and while we wait for the front panel to block out, at least the opal section, I did not block the lace, we're going to start the back panel. Now the front and the back panel are worked exactly the same until you get to the yoke section. And the only thing we're going to do to the yoke section in the back panel is add 1 or 2 more rows so that we get an elevated neck. To determine my neckline, I counted the number of stitches that I would need to continue my open fan stitch repeat, and I placed some stitch markers. Now, in the case of the stitch marker on my right, I counted 9 single crochets from the edge of the garment to the inside. And I did the same for the left side. Now, when I measure the inside here, we can see that I have about 9.5, like this is 6 inches right now, okay? And then moving on, this was where 6 inches was, so 6, 7, 8, about 9.5 inches of neckline, plenty of space, at least for my neck. Now we begin row 9, which is a neckline shaping row. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn. Then we work a single crochet in the single crochet because remember we are continuing with the open fan stitch, so we're just continuing along the repeat. So this is a single crochet in the first stitch, then we do a chain 1 and we work a fan in the chain 2 space. And we're going to keep repeating chain 1, fan, chain 1, single crochet in the single crochet until we have 1 chain 2 space left, and I will meet you back here to complete the last stitch that we're going to do in row 9 together. So now into this last chain 2 space, I'm going to be doing a half fan to signal the end of the row. So I'm going to chain 1 after my single crochet, and now I'm going to work a half fan. Remember that the half fan is treble, chain 2, treble, chain 2, treble. So we would have 3 trebles separated by 2 chain 2 spaces, and that is the half fan. And again, this signals the end of the row for this side of the neckline and the sleeve. We've just completed row 9 of our yoke and we were right side facing. So now we are going to chain 1 and turn to begin our last row for the yoke, which is row 10. And row 10 is going to be on the wrong side of our work, and it's also going to be a squaring off row. Chain 1 and turn, and I'm going to do a single crochet in that first stitch. Then we're going to chain 3, and we're going to do a double crochet in the last chain 2 space of our half fan. Next, we're going to chain 2 to form the space that we skip. And we're going to do a double crochet in the first chain 2 space of the fan. Next, we chain 3, and we're going to do a single crochet in the middle treble of the fan. Chain 3 again, and work a double crochet in the last chain 2 space of the fan. Chain 2, and move on to the next fan. So in this row, again, we just keep repeating the chain 2, move on to the next fan, double crochet in the first chain 2 space of the fan, chain 3, single crochet in the middle treble of the fan, chain 3, double crochet in the last chain 2 space of the fan, and I will meet you back here when we're ready to complete this row. Remember that we end this row repeat by doing a chain 1 and a treble in our last stitch. And with this, we complete this left side when worn. So I'm just going to cut, leaving enough tails so we can seam this. We've completed the left side when worn neckline. So you see here, this is the left side of my body. And now we are going to complete the right side of the neckline. So this side, the right side when worn. Okay, so double checking that we are right side facing. We are going to start in a single crochet from in the middle fan. Why? Because now we need to continue the pattern of doing single crochet, fan, single crochet, fan. So in order to do that, we are going to start at a single crochet. I'm going to add some yarn. Okay, so we single crochet in that stitch. We do a chain 1, and then we do a full fan in the next chain 2 space. Now we continue the pattern by chaining 1 and doing a single crochet and a single crochet. Chain 1 and we work a fan in the chain 2 space. and I will meet you back here to complete the row with the half fan in the last chain space. Okay, so I did the last single crochet. Now I'm going to chain one and I'm going to work a half fan in that chain space. Once we complete this repeat, we are going to go for a row 2 repeat. Row 2, as we said, was the squaring off row, right? So we're going to chain 1 and turn. And now we're going to do a single crochet in that first stitch, chain 3, double crochet in the last chain 2 space of the fan, chain 2 to get us over to the other fan, and now we're going to do a double crochet in that first chain 2 space of the fan. Chain 3 and work a single crochet in the middle treble of the fan. So really what we're doing for these last 2 neckline rows is continuing the open fan stitch repeat for 2 more rows. And we do this so that we add a little bit of a dip in the clavicle area and we add some height in the shoulders so that the top fits nicely over our shoulders and leaves a comfortable space for our neckline. Once we complete the squaring off row, we can cut yarn and fasten off. In this side, we finish at the neck edge, but that doesn't really matter as long as you end on what we call the squaring off row. And with that, our front panel is complete. Now it's time to discuss what we're going to be doing to the back panel. For the back panel, we're going to be working it the same as the front panel, which means that our yoke section where we add the stitches for the sleeve and work the yoke all together to form a T is going to be done in the open fan stitch and the alpaca lace yarn. For the back panel, I still need to add my chains for the sleeve stitches and then work row 50, which is the row where we do extended single crochet at the end. So I'm going to do that and I will meet you back here to talk a little bit more about the alpaca lace section we're going to be working up. As I've already established, the front and back panels will be worked exactly the same. The only difference lies in the last 2 rows that we work for the back panel. I am getting ready to start row 7 in the back, and row 7 is going to be another fan row. So we have 1, 2, 3. We're now going to do our 4th fan row. This is our back panel, okay? So for the front panel, we also did these 4 fan rows. But then we did an extra fan and squaring off row up until the shoulder, right? This is so that we create some distance from the neckline and the shoulders. This lower front neckline gives us breathing room on the neck and allows the top to lay nicely around our body. So now for the back, we're going to crochet the total number of rows that we did for the front. It's just that we are not going to leave a space for a lowered neckline. Instead, what we're going to do is add one last row to the back panel to make sure that the back panel doesn't pull the front panel back. I have 2 more rows to do in this back panel, and then I will meet you here for that extra row that we are adding. Once we've completed our yoke rows, remember our yoke row count should be the same in the front and in the back panel. We are going to do our last row for the back panel. For this last row, what I want to do, or what I recommend doing, is that you work double crochet stitches to add a little bit more height. Now, to figure out the quantity of double crochet stitches needed, we're going to do a little bit of math. And what I'm doing here is that I'm adding my sleeve stitch count, my body stitch count, and then my remaining sleeve for a total of 186 stitches. Now, how am I going to distribute these stitches so that they're even? That requires a little bit of extra math. In order to distribute these as evenly as possible, I've counted the number of stitches on my row, which is 57. I've counted the chain 3 spaces on my row and determined that I'm going to do 2 double crochets per those chain 3 spaces, which gives me a total of 74 stitches. Then I counted the chain 2 spaces, which are 18, and if I do 2 double crochets in each of those chain 2 spaces, I have 36 stitches. Added all together, that is 167 stitches. Following this distribution, we would still be 19 stitches short of our goal, but that is easily remedied. We can add these double crochets along the neckline to make sure that our stitches are spread out as evenly as possible. And just in case, we are using the same hook size 3.5mm crochet hook to crochet all these double crochets for the last row of our back panel. I will see here when I've completed this row. After completing our double crochet stitches, we are going to fasten off and cut our yarn so that we can move on to the seaming section. In order to seam, we're going to lay our pieces right sides facing, and we're going to place stitch markers along the seam so that we know that our rows are lined up nicely. Right here, I've started placing stitch markers right at the bottom of the armhole because it's very obvious where we need to stitch. And then after that, I am going to match up my stitches and every so often place a stitch marker. Right. Starting at the bottom of our sleeve with the opal yarn, I am going to be whip stitching from the bottom of the sleeve all the way down to the side and waistline of our garment. You can, of course, choose any seaming method that you prefer. I just thought that whip stitching gave us the neatest seam. After whip stitching the sides, we whip stitch the shoulder seam. This one's a little bit trickier because we are using that alpaca blaze yarn, so it tends to stick together, but I promise that we will pull through. And we seam the shoulder until we get to that shoulder shaping row. So once you see that the front panel has a little bit of a divot for the neckline, you stop seaming right there. Once our panels are seamed, it is time to work the neckline. So what we're going to be doing is taking our main color yarn, or the fingering weight wool yarn in my case, and I'm also going to be using the 3.5 millimeter crochet hook to start with, but we're going to be taking this yarn and attaching it to the mid stitch of the back panel. After attaching our yarn, I'm going to be working a single crochet stitch in each stitch. If you've never worked a neckline before, then I recommend that you watch my shaping a neckline video tutorial. But for this specific neckline, we're going to be picking up 86 stitches around the neckline. To close off round 1 of the neckline, slip stitch into the first single crochet to join. For rounds 2 to 4, we're going to be switching to the 3.25 millimeter crochet hook to bring in our neckline a little bit. For rounds 2 to 4, we are going to work an extended single crochet in each stitch, and we're going to be joining with a slip stitch to join each round. After completing the neckline of our top, all that's left for us to do is to cut off our yarn, fasten off, weave in all of the ends, and then if you wish to block lightly, I'm gonna let future me reveal whether I blocked or not. We are once again on the floor of my bedroom to finish a garment video, because this time it's because we are all boarded up. Hurricane Milton is set to arrive on Thursday early morning, like dawn time, 2 a.m. So we finished up boarding, but before we finished up boarding the house, I did take like some super quick shots of the finished Not So Summer fan tops. So I'll be inserting those for you here so you can have better visuals of the way the top fits. It's actually very lovely, if I do say so myself. I don't mind the width at all. I think it's very nice. You'll probably be able to tell that I did not actually finish weaving in all the ends. I finished the top and I seamed it quickly so that I could share it with you and finish this video. Hopefully edit it and upload it before we lose any power, if we lose power. I'm hoping we don't, but those are the realities of hurricanes. Now, let's get back to our Not So Summer fan top. Do I like it? Yes, I do. I'm actually very happy with how it came out. I will say though that using lace weight with a 3.5mm crochet hook created a very stretchy yoke. Like there's a lot of room for this to stretch once it blocks. So I'm going to be very careful when I block it. Also, I think if I would have switched to a 3.25mm crochet hook, I could have probably avoided all this extra stretch. Now the extra stretch, I'm also aware it's because we added 2 more rows to our front neckline and back neckline so that we could work a more of a rounded neckline here instead of the boat neck that's in the original summer fan top. And also because we added extra rows in the back and we lowered the front, this sits very nicely on our collarbones and it's not here. Which is one of the things that I didn't like about the original summer fan top design. In terms of the T construction, I'm actually very happy with how it worked with the lace weight. We have a lot of extra room in this sleeve. We could, if again, I would have had more of the opal yarn, I would have made the sleeve a lot longer, about here, so that it could have been a proper 3/4 length sleeves, and then we could have probably cinched it in with a nice cuff. That was the original plan, but as you saw, I barely had enough yarn to finish these little details. I'm still happy with how it came out. It is very cropped. It sits right above my belly button, and I'm going to be putting the finished measurements of the top right here for you in case you want to follow along and make all the changes for this top that I made. And I don't really have much else I can tell you. However, I hope that at the very least this video encourages you to play around with your yarn blends and really just see where the yarn takes you. That is it from me today, crafty wise. Let me know what are some of your favorite yarn combinations to use in garments. Do you find alpaca lace to be itchy? Do you find mohair to be itchy? Because I do find mohair to be itchy. Now I'm going to be including a blog post a little bit later with just, you know, all the final measurements and the written out steps for the things that I did, like shorten my garment and fine-tuning the yoke to fit better around the neck. Again, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you in my next video, whenever that is. Until then, take care and happy crafting. Bye!